So today we're going to start with again analytics. Last time we went through 21, so we're going to start today. It's chapter 722.
In our book, we're actually on 24.
On 24 now. Okay,
yeah,
so
23.
Okay, 24 then it is. So I'm going to read this 722 on my book, Chinese version. It says, 子曰：二三子以我为隐乎？吾无隐乎耳。吾无形而不与二三子者，是丘也。Okay, Elijah, you're going to read the first version, and let Noah read the second version.
24?
24, yes.
The master said, My friends, do you think I am secretive? There is nothing which I hide from you. There is nothing I do which I do not share with you, my friends. There is Chu, how do you pronounce that?
Chu is his name, his own name.
For you.
Chu for you. Chu is his own name. Kong Chu, his family name is Kong. His given name is Chu. Chu means actually little hill, so, okay. Go ahead, Noah.
Read from the scripture. The master said, Do you disciples imagine that I am being secretive? I hide nothing from you. I take no action, I make no move without sharing it with you. This is the kind of person that I am. We should probably relate this passage to 5:13 and 7:21. Since the master did not speak of certain topics, some of his disciples apparently felt he was keeping some sort of esoteric knowledge from them. That is not at all the case, since all that the master taught had to do with learning from the ancients and putting this learning into practice. A lesson that he taught every moment through his own actions and comportment. Wang Yangming's comment on this passage is quite helpful. When it comes to teaching disciples, there are two approaches. Theoretical teaching, Yanjiao, literally teaching through words, and teaching by example, Shenjiao, literally bodies or personal teaching. Theoretical teaching is certainly useful for teaching one how to act, but it cannot match the sort of profound effect that one can achieve through teaching by example. With his behavior, the master provided the students with a model to emulate, but there were disciples who were only interested in theoretical teaching. This is why the master had to make it clear that he was, in fact, not hiding anything from them. This was to serve as a warning to the disciples. The sense is quite similar to that expressed in 1719. I wish I did not have to speak again. What does heaven ever say? Confucius's response thus also serves as a warning to the disciples not to fixate on theoretical problems, but rather to focus on the task of actual moral practice. 1613, where Bo Yu, the son of Confucius, is suspected of having received esoteric training, but responds that all he learned from his father was to study the odes and to learn ritual.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
So comments. This is a big one, right? So, Wake up, wake up, wake up.
I think
What did it say about the two different...
研究和深究. Yeah, means teaching through words, through instruction with words. 深究 means through action, through living lives.
So yeah, that's a pretty major point.
Major point there, huh? Yeah.
Because it's almost opening up a whole different way of looking at teaching, besides just textbook, right? And actually looking at actual in life things.
Yes. And learning, right? So you have to be intuitive to those things. As students more interested in learning the subject, in a topical way, stuff expound on things, which is not necessarily bad. But Confucius tried to teach them through his is a way of life as well, right? So that is a main theme actually in the Bible as well, right? So Jesus speaking about learning through practice. Can I borrow your book a little bit? Okay. Let's turn to Matthew 5. Oh, you have to have this. Okay, let me get my own Bible then. So. The yan means speech, okay, or words of things. So shen means body, literally, or the way how you carry yourself. Basically, shen means you're personally doing something, you know. So Matthew 5. So Jesus taught this very clear as well. In Matthew 5, read 17 to 20. Noah, can you read that for us?
17 to 20.
Talking about learning something through practice, am I? So.
Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen, will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven.
Now, I don't know if 19 said break. Well, break is obviously mostly violate, right? So I don't know exactly. There may be other translations. It's like expound in details, right? The break like a breaking down something, you know. So expounded, overtly expound something. Basically, elaborately doing something in length, in very academic way sometimes, right? So, right, but they will talk a lot, but not doing anything about what they're teaching, right? So Jesus was saying, you know, you can expound that law all day long, you know, make a big thing out of it, but you don't do anything about it. So that is
kind of like ask, like trying to teach someone to do something or telling someone to do something, but you don't even do it.
You don't know how to do it, actually. You don't ever want to do it in a practical way. So, that's my point. You know, approaching the Bible, approaching wisdom, books teaching life lesson, life wisdom. It's not important merely elaborate on the topics. It's really to do something about it. You know, sometimes you can write a beautiful essay thinking about how brotherly love can be done, but when two brothers come together, cannot really build a solid relationship. Right? I don't know how to start from there. So what's useful brotherly love? You know a lot about it, but you can't do anything about it, right? So now that's something you can love a girl. You know, you can all fantasize, whole romanticize the relationship, but when difficult things come, right? So all things that challenging your emotion your own ways, you can't really give up accommodating that, right? So that means you become a subject abuse, you know, emotional thing, relational abuse. But there is a love forgives and love accommodates. So making sense to you. So part of the things is not to cover up, but really give room for everybody to improve, to correct themselves. Making sense to you. So whoever teach you love, for example, say that I know how to love, but never really give room for others to make a mistake. Can they say they love you? So obviously not. So unfortunately, in many circles, in many people's lives, they use love as a weapon rather than true means to love. So making sense to you. So is there any other topic? Have faith, do honor, do justice. Am I? So so you can think what's supposed to be, and command others or invite others to behave in a certain way. But they're only theoretical, but you're not actually doing your life. You orient your life, hardly engage your life in those ways. Then it's become a married topic. Making sense to you, Elijah? Am I? So, yeah. Like a morning in the morning. You're going to buy a coffee for me out of love, out of honor, or out of this brotherly fairness, right? So that's something you have to think about when you grow up. When you're 14 years old, it's not a big deal, right? So, but when you become 15, 16, you're not a child anymore. You have some income. I'm not trying to pick you out. I'm just talking about natural growth. You begin to affiliate the behaviors people around you think, relate to them in a way that open up for yourself. When you are young, life and relationship, everybody young, they don't necessarily demand those on you, right? There's no judgment on you. But when getting older, those things you naturally sort of grow up, accommodate as a part, integrated part of your relational building. It's not about the money anymore. It's about the ways how you engage relationship, in a productive, beneficial way. Am I making sense to you? So when you grow up, let's see. This sounds a very ridiculous topic, but it's a huge topic in life. Okay, like you're 25 years old, you are legitimately and formally being an able member of society, right? Or culture, whatever. 25 years old, you shouldn't get on your feet doing things in a dependable way, right? So not independent, but dependable way. If you go to out, you're 25, you have a peer relationship, you treat people, let's see, just you're rich, others not necessarily well-to-do even, but you treat them 10 times a meal, treat them dinner, whatever, as occasion. But the person's always reasoning back, said, hey, my friends are rich, he don't really care about the dinner, so I just forget about it. I never invited him to have dinner with me. I suppose you go to a French restaurant, it's expensive, but this guy just go to the street taco place, right? So to treat you back a little bit, right? So the point I'm making is not about money, social standards, whatever. It's a behavioral engagement, relational engagement. If I'm the friend rich, thinking about it, after 10 hours I treat you all the good meals out of sympathy or try to be friend with you, but you don't ever invite me to your taco place. I would just drop everything to go to your taco place because I want to be your friend, right? I don't worry about that. The reason I treat you good is because you don't have these privileges I can afford to give to you something. Making sense to you? So, but really, I would rather buy the taco place. Buy food in the taco place for you, whatever going on. But you never give it the opportunity for the practice and relationship. So who aiding did who in this occasion? The prejudice of the poor man, poor friend, defined the rich friend, how to relate to him, right? So it casts him in a certain shadow, right? So, but if you then the friend did come back, said, hey, I insist, I know you are, but I insist today we're going to drink some beer, you taco on the street. Come with me. He doesn't care your social standard. He doesn't care how you feel about it. He just said, I want you to come with me, not because anything else, just because I want to thank you for you treating me as a friend. I want you to enjoy my life, aspects my life, extend your life. If I'm a reasonable friend or a good friend, I'm so honored, so happy to be there, right? So or maybe not go out and have time with the family, right? So because that's what I want to do. That's why I engage relationship from the start begin with, am I? Making sense of true friendship. We all talk true, beautiful friendship or engage. On the other side, if the friend come back, treated him, invite him to go about things, do you think the two friends going to relationship going to have a stumbling over because of social status or the money status? The friendship will elevate to a place, developing the place, money and social status really laid aside, right? So there's no more a concern for them anymore. Making sense to you? They will look at each other as real people. They will engage relation like that, right? So you may think that's strange, but that's in my life. My life is full of different stories, engaging different social standing in people, right? So why people want to be friends with me? When I was homeless, right? So, like your dad. Why they want to do that, right? So because I was able, so I'm only talking one side of being a rich friend to do certain things, expect certain relationship. But what if you're, let's say, the poor friend? You may feel restrained or not confident with your social standing, whatever. Is that restraining you to be a real man, real friend? Are you free to make friends with rich people, have good standing in life? Not really, right? So you can enjoy so life threw you a different girl, you have different standing in life. So what? Are you not still honorable and wise and wonderful friends? Can you not be that? You should be that, regardless of social standing. Making sense to you? So I'm not to brag about it. That's because I have some respect, self-respect, and know how to treat people, right? So that's light. But people treated me extremely nice. There are people used to work in the White House, so brag a little bit, okay? Every week, your dad knows, the guys. Pick him up and go to the food place, Every week. Used to work in the White House. The office is sitting next to Reagan and called himself. So why he do that is because for sure God did something for me. My testimony impress him, but it has to do with also personal touch, right? So you engage with friends like that, So you the Southern Road Club around they say, oh, you're a worthy friend, to engage. This guy want to start a business with me, So you understand my point, So. My point is not to brag my experiences, how engage life in a way that can brush aside. It's a very beautiful thing, but you nurture that self-confidence, freedom, when you in quiet time like this. Making sense to you? You're not getting there just because you think you're somebody. You have to nurture that confidence in you, who you are. Engage in this relationship in your private quarters, regardless who they are. So that's why it's so important sometimes to read things and then experience things. So because it broadens your vision of life. I see you very, very attentive these days in listening to me. You're different Elijah than we started with, right? So because you begin to see those things are valuable life lessons to you. Making sense to you? So, yeah. Comment more. There's another verse I want you to read, Elijah. Let's look at the 7th chapter, the same discourse, called the Sermon on the Mount in 24. Read on that one.
Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice.
So when he's hearing it, the next one, putting into practice. So, Jesus never taught theoretically. He never wanted to start, what is it called, the school, today's teaching ministers, what they call seminary or whatever, Making sense to you? He always wanted to, in a real life, engage discipleship, however. Go ahead.
Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on a rock.
Let me give you an example why it's so important for you to think about the terms. The example I give to you how to be either social standing, win friendship, right? Nurture friendship, right? Develop relationships. Let a society don't dictate to you who you are, don't dictate your relationship anymore. They can't define who you are. I talk to the rich one, the powerful ones, extremely treat them like a normal man. How you do that? You have to carry yourself in a certain ways, and you're rich, you're powerful, is not going to define my relation with you, me with you. Now, if you continue to do so, you're not my friend. I don't have time for it. It's saying, I don't want those things. I'm not impressed by those things. Not despising, not obsessed by those things. But if someone going to use those and develop my relationship, define my relation with them, no, I'm not interested in you. It's like another object in the world, right? So I'm not interested to be your friend. I'm not interested for you to think I'm your friend either, because you don't have what I want, right? So making sense to you. So that's simple. But that has to come to you in your heart. You know what true friendship entails. Who is your true friend? What kind of friendship you want to build, invest in your life. Can everybody do that? Very few can do that in real life, right? So making sense to you? But Jesus and Confucius was teaching a certain way for his students, for their disciples rather, to stand out from the confine, the restraint for the culture of the day, the way the man, right, common man carry themselves, to thinking them as a princess. Let me teach you how to be a son of God. That's more than a prince of the world, right? Confucius speaking about started with, treat everyone as a prince, as one valuable has a potential to become a godly man, a holy man. Do you understand? So he never lowered the standard. Okay, so he treated one like a farmer or a merchant with those base levels of life. But when he see them, there are his students, he don't treat them differently. Hui is the best students he had. What Hui has, don't even afford a good meal during the day, right? But he meditate on Confucian teaching. He think about the practice of Islam. He live in a very poor quarter of society, right? So according to 穷巷 means a poor street for poor people. Confucius has students like that, but he gave high regard in amongst the best students. He let everybody know. One of the students is a general, other students the richest man in the whole nations. The diplomats, they are great social settings, but he pointed and who said, that's kind of students I want. Basically, everybody learn from me, but they also learn from him to be a good student. Now, how you can build that culture, build that kind of flow of honor relationship? It started with very small things, with teaching and saying practicing. So, just think about, did Hui was a good student? For sure, was a good student. But also reflected when Hui is honored, highly esteemed in the midst of students, even by the teacher himself. Does not reflect what kind of teacher we have here? Does not give a impression or a motivation for all the students sort of around, okay, this is the kind of students my teacher wants me to be, right? So in the starting, drop those things that I think is important. Being a general, being a rich man, those things, learn the real way that my teacher will honor, aspire to. Now, we're sure going to allude to our teaching time, that's how we carry ourselves, right? Should not we carry that boldly, freely, excitingly? For sure we should. when you have students, when you have children, young generation, how can you inspire them to be? That's my point. Inspire with God-given potential to each one. Making sense to you? Yeah. So, amen. Then go on. Move on. This end of this discourse. Mm-hmm.
It's like a wise man who built his house upon the rock. The rain came down, streams rose, and the windows blew and beat against the house, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man.
He's what? He hear but did not put in practice. That's a pair with the seed as well, right? Some take his word, you delight, but did not really practice it, did not allow it to become fruitful, right? So the same way of teaching this side. So when this is teaching disciple, do you think he just head off, don't see how they walk it out? Or he were observant with how they walk it out? If they refuse to walk it out, would you think continue want to teach them? So in a sense, a teacher is different than modern day teachers, right? A teacher topic, go home, so let's beat the test. And the most are going to go and grade your testing, right? So those ways have no or moral or relational engagement with you. They're not accountable for you in terms of your learning. That's the worst kind of teaching you can get. Then with accountability taken over by a system, but things aiding data from relationship, right? Through testing, through career paths, or whatever. That's the worst kind of teaching system ever produced. That's why it continue to produce students after students becoming irresponsible and in dysfunctional social members of society. Making sense to you? Because it encourages you to compete each other. Encourage you to sign on a different value for life. You become alienated from the real purpose education. Real purpose education is never merely to impart knowledge, impart skills, impart know-hows, impart culture, impart relationship, how you become how to be happy. With the two systems usually define happiness in two different settings, right? Whereas power, money, success in man's world. The other happiness is about the people around you, the relationship around you, So that's why we high criticisms, we all applaud the movie, the value, the literature, whatever, the dramas. Said a rich man on the deathbed, nobody really care about him, right? He feels such a failure in his life, We can all see the tragedy of that life, but we like what's it called, the thing fly into the fire, and the moth. we that's a fire, right? Can consume them. But nobody wake up said, well, you know what? Let's learn that man's lesson, right? No, everybody sign on, continue to fly into that flame, and let's all consumed, and the system, the society, the education endowment is encouraged to do that. It literally encouraged to do that, to be sacrifices for those culture altars, if I'm making sense to you. So people like us begin withdraw from that. So that's not the right way to envision anyone's life, to say that that's going to give you happiness, give you a sense of achievement. So nobody really pay attention to it, right? So the truth of the matter is, those men never happy. The people around them was never happy. They all have a tragic, miserable, and oppressed or depressed life, right? So making sense to you? So I'm telling the truth. Okay, so I studied history long enough. I know what it means. The most powerful man is the most miserable and tragic man in the world. Hitler, Mao Zedong, Chinese leader. Stalin is just modern day, last century, the major figure society. Okay. Churchill, the good ones. Roosevelt, the good ones, okay? Kennedy. I mean, Lincoln may be the better card from than the flux. That's called the world leaders, right? So no one was a happy man. No, everyone's life, family life, relational life is almost like miserable. I mean, Kennedy's might be better, but it's messed up life. Do you understand? My few men keep their family in a good standing, but those are people lead making major decisions in societies. Not saying that they should not definitely play the roles God used them, and the society needs them for the day. But do you want to be that kind of man? That's the big question there. Do you want to be that kind of man? If you God give you the opportunity to become influential or powerful, whatever, what kind of man you gonna be to carry yourself in that standing in life? That's what we try to discuss here, to build some foundation here. Making sense to you? So, let's move on to the next one. So, 723 said, 子以四教，文行忠信. Okay. Elijah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
The master instructs under 4 heads: culture, moral conduct, doing one's best, and being trustworthy in what one says.
Wow, that's really good. There is sum it up. It's teaching. And the things emphasize. Go ahead, Noah.
Master taught 4 things: cultural refinement, comportment, dutifulness, and trustworthiness. This is a companion to 724, the one we just read before.
Yeah.
He Yan remarks, all 4 of these things are concrete and observable, and therefore can be held up as models for teaching. There is some debate over what precisely culture or cultural refinement, refers to here. Although some commentators understand it as referring to the study of the classics and cultural arts, He Yan sees it as referring to the cultural refinement expressed in the master's demeanor.
I think so. It's a demeanor. It's one how he carries himself. When the first one is, there is another saying Confucius described called 文质彬彬, means one is really refined or cultivated in his ways. So when here means to be cultivated. You don't rough. You have good speech, good manners to carry yourself. So I don't think it's necessarily a big word like we use in the culture, in our setting. It's more a cultivated way, right? So making sense to you, like how to talk, how to carry yourselves. The second way is 行 means his action, his deeds, right? So 行 means how to do things more than words. Express yourself. That is how you do things. Do you do things disrespectfully? Do you do things rashly? Do you do things in dishonor or things that are not necessarily good ways to carry yourself? Then the other one called 宗 is interesting. 宗 means relational. Okay, so all this is treating people, but one is self-required. The other is relational required. 宗 means, am I faithful to things? If I commit a comment in the kind of comment, I made a deal, right? So am I going to stick to it? In my word is my, what's it called in English? The word is what? It matters, basically, So 宗 means you being not flippant, you're trustworthy, So 信 is also trustworthy, but 信 is more, 宗 means more up, down level. If you assume 宗 means respect the family tradition, a subject respect the master, so the king, whatever, the lord. So more up-down relationship, you call it a vertical relationship, right? So in any society, you can invade from vertical relationship, whether you like it to define it or not, it would be stupid to think it don't exist. If company have a head CEO, right? So every client think he can meet the CEO. On big corporations, and any clerk think he can share his plan, his counsel with the CEO. That would be chaotic. The CEO don't have anything to do. Every day just entertain people's talk with them, right? So obviously, some vertical setup is more than the hierarchical structure is out of a necessary effectiveness, productivity of the tradition. For sure, might use it, but I'm talking about the vertical setup is not always wrong, right? It's legit and functional and object existence in the world, society, any society, in any culture, in any community or group life, that are always going to show up. If someone thinks that's oppressive, that's not supposed to happen, he's a foolish man. It's called anarchy, right? So, false democracy. Democracy dishonor authority, or democracy elect authority, honor authority. Making sense? That's real democracy. But democracy think is, I don't need authority. I don't want authority. That is no democracy. That is a by nature non-democratic. Democratic or anarchy. But in modern way thinking, we think of democracy is have no regard for authority. The truth of the matter, you want good authority. That's why you want democracy, so you can elect the kind of authorities trustworthy or preferable to you, right? To the public, to the general majority, in a sense. But modern way thinking, we have been translated so wrong. The culture has so receded, dishonor, and redefine democracy as if no authority is supposed to exist, should function. That's totally wrong way to think about democracy. I'm just trying to give you some ideas, right? So now democracy in that light, did this encourage dishonor authority? Or the authority is elected and honored by the general public, should we honor them, So I'm just talking. That's lost in American culture now. That's my point. It's lost. Let me give you some historical background a little bit. There's no worse time in American and dangerous time, if you will, at each other's throat time, than the Civil War time. Making sense to you? Civil War time, okay? There's South government, there's North government. They're each one confederate and what the other one called, the federal. So each one is each other's throat, try to kill each other, right? So they try to dethrone each other's authority, right, in a sense. But you look at the conversation carried between the general, even between they take over they fight death on the battlefield, great casualties suffered through those wars. But when the people become what's it called, being captive, what it called?
Slavery?
Not slavery, but being surrendered. The people surrender the other camp, or they treat each other, right? So, making sense to you? Not to treat each other very fairly. Treat each other still very fairly, whether the south to the north or the north to the south. So sure, there are extremes, So, but in general, each one has higher respect for each other. Okay, the correspondence and negotiations were carried out in a very civilized way, in a sense, very respectful way. This is my point. Well, sounds crazy, but that's true. Okay, you look at the responses, very reasonable, very good, respect each other. The South surrendering eventually. The people still have good social standing. They didn't wipe it up. Did not really, just put him in jail, just doing all kind of persecution, right? So why that is possible? Why that is possible? It's because the fight was never personal grievances, most of the part, right? So they were fighting for economic system, for the social structure, in a sense. That's my point. But they most are Christians, highly respectful for the life. At least the so Caucasian people, whatever, so high respectful, they have a culture trend. So in a sense, in that society, in that kind of time, is that kind of accommodation or civility that we're dealing with one another exists today? Not really, right? So that is lost, unfortunately, when the two world war begin to happen. Some tragic characters begin to treat people literally in very inhuman ways. Slavery was an inhuman setup, but the fight was about that, right? So, but you look at the Second World War, especially how the Germany and Japanese treat other people in such massive cruelty, So it's literally shake the whole Western world, whole world, the moral standing. We would never think of war in a civilized world come some debased way like that. That's my point. It's more than a tragedy. It's a touch the moral stance of things, So I don't know how to explain to you. Okay, it's literally rage, hatred, all kind of things begin to overrun things. Now that shift the cruelty of communism, Nazism, and then eventually the war, that kind of cruelty with today's world, right? So human value literally is not on the agenda. While we're talking, we're big about it. But when in war, literally there's no one really care too much about those things. Making sense to you? So hope we'll do better in the days to come. But it's reflecting a degradation in the Western society as far as it goes, in this nation as far as it goes. Are we treating war is not same as used to be. Now, why is that happening? When you think about it, why this happening? Why it's happening? Because the education of the civics, the what called the civility, so the citizens has lost the grip on some simple moral teachings. Neighbor is not your neighbor. Even at war those days, neighbors still respecting each other. They have this. In one family, one brother going to fight in the north, the other brother fighting for the south. You understand my point, So they literally going to fight, but they don't disrespect each other. They don't think they are not brothers. Do you understand my point? So anyway, let's move on. So what my point is that how that is the social fabric upheld is through this kind of relational engagement is upheld. When those things are breaking down, a person said, I don't need to talk to you kindly. I can curse you, speaking all kind of rubbish to you, because that's my right, my freedom of speech. Are you kidding me? Freedom of speech was never indulged or reason for you to speak nonsense, speak bad things, making sense to you? But we use that, right? Secondly is behavior. Nobody's supposed to talk to me what to do. What are you talking about? The teacher was set up in order to tell you how to behave in classroom. The parents supposed to tell you how to behave as a child in the family, right? Young generation. But those are threw off the reins, It's almost the parents and teacher when begin to really deal with that, seriously wanting to do that, they almost instantly into this society cast as bad parents, bad teachers. Making sense to you guys? Don't give much room for young people. It's crazy thinking about it. Actually, those are good parents, good teachers. They know the importance, have discipline, have order for young people. Thinking the zone, so talking about the hierarchical or vertical respect, so that's not lost today anymore. Everything is about the money, about the contract, about position, about the fight, right? So no more you can see a company of people or a community people, company in corporate world, the people don't have relationships. Everything is for the job, for the share, or for the business profit, right? So you can't work in a business today for 30 years and get everybody's your family in the city, right? So we just lost that. Is that supposed to be? Nonsense. Company is supposed to take care of their own people, making sense to you? So that's where your community is supposed to be built, your relationship is supposed to be built. You cannot form that in your everyday life, especially in the working place life. Then how you expect any other aspect of your life be meaningful, right? So you become a cog in a big machine of a competition and interest, human interest. I mean, talking money even, so you're no more a human being in a sense. Finally, the one is a 性 means more pair relationship, pair relationship. As I shared with you, Elijah, 性 is built by small things, right? Making sense to you? Use the extreme example of the rich friend treating the people don't teach those ways anymore. It's all awkward topic. I can feel the tension when I speak like that. That's normal topic. That's where you're supposed to start to teach young people. That's the parents supposed to tell you how to do that. I'm not going to blame your parents. I'm talking about those are things that you literally take the young people, go through it, tell them how to deal with people disadvantaged in life, so, or people better off than us, how we deal with them. Those are basics, how you, as a family, as when you send young people into those circles of friends, tell them how to carry themselves. That must be done. Or they got confused, right? They had to figure out themselves. They don't know how to deal with it. Until 20 years later, 15, less than 25 years later, you figured out, okay, that's things. Finally get a grip on these things. Are you kidding me? You're supposed to be 15 years old, have good parents, wise teachers, wise elders in your life tell you how to carry yourself in a greater society. Am I making sense to you? So think about the loss of serious, meaningful educations. Those awkward topics. Are you kidding me? You should be taught how to have a girlfriend, right? Should not be taught. You should ask. You understand my awkward topic, you should ask. I'm talking about that not everybody had to pick a girl for you per se, but there's a certain ways you can discuss about it, learn from your parents about it. And those are big topics in life. It's like, you want to make a meal, you're going to ask your mom how to make that meal, right? So those are more than a meal, those are major decisions in life. Now, how you to be informed, educated? You want to be informed by the world, by TV shows, by whatever the young people are talking about, or you want to be informed by experienced, godly ones, the ones kind of planning your life for those kind of counsel. Making sense to you, Lanjia? So those are supposed to be norm. Those are supposed to be the order of the day. Those are supposed to be, every young people know what to do with that. Every parents know what to do with that. And that's my point. Those things are disappearing on us. Feel awkward about it. It's wrong, actually. It's terribly wrong. Terribly wrong. First is throw you guys in a place, the ocean, try to swim, so can you swim? You don't know how to swim in that terrible ocean. The second is that those are things are big things of life to build relationships, to share life together. What do you think the wisdom given to those people is for? What do you think your life is supposed to be founded upon and nurtured by in bigger councils of life? Making sense to you? If it's an awkward topic, there's something wrong about it. We don't even think about those conversations be carried out. Certain young people say, that's the last person who want to talk to my parents. That's either being young people's failure or the parents' failure. Now sometimes we can't really blame them because either one is ignorantly subscribed to a flow of culture. They have no reference point, right? So But for us, we need to think about, wow, is that the way going to be for us? When I being a parent, is that going to be for my children? So if they're going to change, if I'm going to be a different kind of parent to them, they're going to be different. The young generation honor me, honor my own side, nurturing. So where I start? Otherwise, you start with you, and right? So start with you, at least not resisting to change the dialogue, change the way we engage those major elements of your council of life. Yeah, in that, Elijah, you think today is a word a week. I never see you listen to me so interestingly before. What happened to you? Something happened to you. Yeah, that's very encouraging. So I want you to pray. So.
Lord, I pray that Lord, through these teachings, Lord, and ways of living, Lord, that you would just continue to impart your way of life to us. Lord, that my mind would continue to be opened. Lord, not just today.
No, lay hands on Elijah, pray for him as well.
Lord, not just today, Lord, that I would be attentive, but Lord, from now on, Lord, as a changed person, that I would truly begin to straighten my life out, Lord, and take responsibility and become a true son in your kingdom. Because, Lord, I want to be your son, and I want to know your ways. But, Lord, I truly want to teach others your ways. And, Lord, I want others to know you. So, Lord, I pray that you would bless that, Lord, and that I would have the opportunity to show. But, Lord, first I must learn your ways. I must know your ways first. So, Lord, I'm ready. And, Lord, I'm here ready to learn from you. And, Lord, I want to find you, seek your face. And, Lord, even though it might be hard, difficult, Lord, I may have to let go of things in my life. But, Lord, what I will gain is so much more than I can imagine. So, Lord, I pray that I would seek your face, and, Lord, that I could teach others to do so. So, Lord, I pray that you would bless today and these teachings, that I would make them a way of life. And, Lord, not, Lord, as we are learning now to act upon it. So, Lord, may I learn, not be like the man who builds his house on the sand, but, Lord, that I would build my house upon the rock of your understanding of your ways. So, Lord, I pray this in your name.
Amen. What a prayer. Thank you, Elijah. The Lord bless it. Lord bless it. Right. Never be shy about good things. Go ahead.
Yes, Lord, I do pray that you, Lord, would bring an answer to Elijah's prayer, Lord, that you would begin to reveal yourself in greater ways to him, Lord, and to his inner man and his circumstances in life, Lord, and through those that you have placed in his life to teach and lead him, or to instruct him. And Lord, I do ask that he would look for the acquiring and the practice of wisdom in, Lord, practical and simple ways, Father. Lord, in ways that he may not expect, Lord, but are ordained by you to mete out these things, or to make them real for him. Lord, I do pray that you, Lord, in your perfect way and your perfect timing, Lord, in answer to his prayer, Lord, would bring him to the end of himself, Lord, or to bring him to an end of his own, Lord, ideals of life, Lord, in contrast to the destiny that you have for him. And Lord, that this would not be a discouraging thing for him, Lord, but that would be something that he finds a new kind of encouragement in. So Lord, I pray that you would bless him in this way in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Well, we'll wrap up today. I think we got a good discussion there. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one,
So,
huh? Okay.
Some